there, welcome to or welcome back to No Pants Profits. My name's Richard, still sitting here with no pants and unfortunately an empty glass, but we'll fix that in a minute, and hopefully plenty of profits. And today I want to talk to you a little bit more. We haven't talked about it on this channel as much because, it got a little tedious, a little tiresome. I want to talk to you about starstake. I want to talk to you about nrgygo. We did builder. We did all these different things, all these different scams that were all run by one guy named Alan Friedland. Now, why do I say they're a scam? Because they're a pyramid scheme. Once more people stop joining, guess what? No more money. Money dries up. And what's really cool is it's very rare that in these scams, these pyramid schemes, and these things like that, you get someone that's kind of willing to talk to you out in the open and out in the public about the entire process. And why I find that beneficial and hugely beneficial is there are a lot of people who are still in. We have a group, no lie, no need to say, I have a group of people, about 20 or 30 people who have dejected from the scam, but I do have one member today who's ready to, say his name, show his picture, no black and white, no silhouette, no voice changing, no anything like that, but to tell the truth and tell how this whole thing worked. So I want to dig right into that, and my goal is that I want to help you that haven't seen it yet and seen what's going on, or you might have heard about this. Someone might have said, hey, join my downline. That's an MLM scam thing. Hey, join my downline. Hey, join what's going on and stuff like that. So I do want to introduce you. Let me pop him over. I've got him on Zoom right now to Greg. Greg, you can wave hello. And
Hello.
And Greg is in a unique scenario. Now, I personally, I'm gonna let Greg talk a lot in a minute because I gotta make my drink. But I learned a lot about energy and all that through Builder. Someone just sent me an email from, and Greg doesn't even know about this scam. I haven't talked about him yet. There was an old scam I did called Terith, where I took a scam coin that was worth $13 million and brought it in market cap and brought it down to about $4,000 in market cap. It was literally worth $13 million. Someone found that video, reached out and said, hey, there's this thing going on called Builder. And I thought Builder was just the beginning. And I wrecked Builder. I'm not going to lie. If you want to see a little bit more about Builder, there'll be some Builder coin things up there. But I wrecked Builder. And they didn't launch. They lied. And I just went in a straight nosedive down. But Greg was in long before Builder. So I want kind of Greg to tell you all how he got in, tell you his story. His name is, I always thought it was Doocy Man, but it's actually Doc Neiman, because he is actually a doctor. So you may say, as weird as it sounds, in the scheme of things, people go, oh, someone, I'm not meaning to be rude, someone smart would never fall for something like this. But, even doctors, sometimes fall for these things because, again, my mom always told me if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But I want Greg to kind of tell his story. Plus, while Greg tells his story, I've got some nice, this is a great distillery called Chainbridge Distillery. I'm going to make myself a little Moscow Mule. So I'll bring it over to Greg. Then me and Greg will talk about how we met and everything like that. So Greg, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you. Yeah, I got started with energy back in, it was about a year ago now. Yeah, pretty dang close to a year ago. And
just timeline wise, I don't want to interrupt you. That's about when I got involved with Builder as well. So we're both in it about the same time. It was about a year ago.
I'm not familiar with what Builder is at all, to be honest with you. But energy is what I got in, and how I got into it is somebody local here to me in the Midwest. I met by ordering some other products from another kind of MLM program. And she happened to mention a crypto opportunity. And at that point, crypto was doing pretty good. Richard's making his drink there. Crypto was doing pretty good. And all I heard about it was, people are making tons of money in Bitcoin and Ethereum and all of these other things. I didn't really know anything about it. And I got invited to the Discord channel for energy and started reading a little bit about it. Started talking to one of the leaders and watching some weekly Zooms. At that time, there was weekly Zooms on most every Saturday. And all of those are posted on the internet, or at least they were.
And then we reposted them, and they were taken down for copyright, which kind of shows that someone doesn't want them being around anymore.
Yeah, something's kind of strange
and
there.
Can I ask you a question, Greg? I just want to kind of guide this. What were those Zooms promising? And I think this isn't the time before starstake, but I mean, we have recordings of the Zooms, and we've done some videos on some of the Zooms before. I mean, I have. Greg, this is not mine and for Greg's first time talking, but it's our first time talking publicly. So, like, what was the person that you were talking to? Who the person you were talking to was the one running the Zooms? Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes.
They were the one that was the leader of the Zooms, but they were not the main programmer of everything, which we'll talk about Alan in a little bit. But there was a person that was running the Zooms.
Yeah, but I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know anything about Alan or the leader or anything, to be honest with you. I was watching the Zooms and looking at the different ideas of what they were proposing, and of course, they put a disclaimer in there saying these are all hypothetical, but they use them every week, trying to show you that the potential is there to make literally millions of dollars on a small investment. In fact, when I first purchased energy coins, if you staked them on the Polygon network, you would get 100% bonus.
And
And
what
at
that
that,
means, I want to convert that for people who are not crypto familiar. Staking means you are committing to not sell them for a certain period of time so that the value will go up and you can't sell and more people can't sell and more people can't sell. And that's why you've got that chart going up and to the right. I want to translate some things that might
right,
not be familiar to everyone.
right. And so I would say I bought 50 coins on the Ethereum side and used their website to migrate and stake to the Polygon side. Well, then I would have 100 coins. And if you logged onto the Polygon side, it would show you that your value there was 10 times what you put in. Of course, it was staked and you couldn't remove it for, they said at that time, it was like
40
52
weeks.
weeks,
40
40
weeks or
weeks.
something.
Supposed to be the end of October or something like that last year, if I recall right.
2022. 2022.
2022, yeah. And so I thought that, hey, that sounds great. Why not? I'm not really familiar with crypto, but everybody's making money. I hear in it.
And
Why
this
not
is right
just
at the time when Bitcoin was like $50,000, $60,000 and was on a trajectory, as the crypto boys say, on a trajectory to the moon. With a,
right,
and a lot
right,
of these calls, they were probably saying that, correct? Bitcoin's the big daddy, but we have an opportunity. I've watched some of them, and yes, they'd try and give a disclaimer, but they would never project towards the downside, would they? They'd always project towards the
right,
minimum upside. They'd say,
right,
minimum, you're going to make a 50 times return on your investment, and
right.
maximum, you're going to make 1,000 times return on your investment. That's the reality of what they would say.
Right, and in the Zoom meetings, they would continually talk about this is consistent with other companies like Amazon or Apple and things like that.
Yeah, and
And
I think they would say that they would think they were building an iPhone in a garage. Like that's what I remember. They were like, we're like a garage, like Amazon started in a garage with Jeff Bezos, and we're building the next iPhone. And for those that are not crypto familiar, it's like, holy crap, this sounds amazing. I'm gonna meet a bajillionaire. And they would give you
yeah,
projections. I mean, I've seen a few of these meetings. I know you were on these meetings every single Saturday, but they would give you projections that you were going to be a bajillionaire. And I think a lot of these projections at that time were based upon what are called DApps, or digital applications, because in crypto, for a crypto coin to not be, I'm going to say the word that we know this all is, a Ponzi scheme, there has to be a product. Because right now, they're committing people to staking coins, and then that locks them up for 40 months. And then I don't know if you ever did, and I don't think we've ever had this discussion. Did you ever recruit other people, or did you just live in that yourself? Because
uh, I just lived in it myself.
but a lot of the people in that community, that the way that the coin grew is because they were recruiting people and getting paid two lines down. And I think a lot of these people that were running this were MLM pyramid pit, Ponzi scammers. But what I want to talk about is, at that time when you joined, they were saying there was a DApp, or a digital application, that was going to bring value or utility to the energy token. So I want you to speak a little bit about that DApp or application.
Yeah, what they were promoting is that at the kind of the end of the line of this 40 weeks of staking was a program called starstake. And they said every person that owned energy coins, if you had at least 25 staked, or over 500 staked, you would get a share of the royalties that were generated on this application starstake. And kind of they would show a little bit of a video here and there showing what was being programmed. But if you go back in hindsight now, it's really the same videos and stuff that were shown long before when it was called something else, as we've talked about before, Richard. But that was
Yeah.
what
So I
the
mean,
ultimate.
the idea was, and did they ever say? I guess here's another question. You know, if you've watched, and I've shown this in videos before, if you've watched their original pitch video, I would say that the leaders of this scheme, scam, whatever it was, are very anti-United States government. And you know, they would really pitch to people, hey, look, you know, we want to do this because it's going to make money for normal people and not bankers and things like that. And they pitched a very anti-government stance on all of this, and I think that was their main backing. So did they ever mention about, you know, being actually regulated by the government or being an actual stock or being anything like that? Because I think that's important, because a lot of people know, you know, I think you have very well, Greg, you probably have an investment advisor that is, you know, taking a percentage of your you know, your income every year and putting it into a Roth IRA or anything like that. You know, did they ever mention how this fits into your financial portfolio? Or did they try and tell people, this is it? This is going to make all your money? Because, I mean, that's what I kind of saw. It's like, you don't need a financial advisor. This is the community bank, and we're going to all win together and everything like that. And that language to me is very cult like. And I know you might have not seen it while you were in it, but I know I've sent you a lot of videos kind of showing you how a cult operates, and it seems that it was pitched in a very cult-like way. So I'll let you kind of talk through that.
In hindsight, yes, it was. A lot of the videos talked about how this would absolutely disrupt global financial systems. They talked about this was a disruptive thing, and in fact, that was the first time I ever even heard of this Alan Friedland. Was some video where he popped on a Zoom for a minute and talked about a global disruption, and that was kind of unusual for me because I didn't really know. And in looking at the Discord, people were talking about, well, this is something that you don't need banks for. There's no regulation, and probably don't need to pay tax on. There was a
Right.
few people that
Because
said that.
one of the things we've always talked about is the Howey test. And you know,
You're right.
that's one of those things, you know, is this a security? Is this something that should be regulated by the government and everything like that? And you know, the brains behind all this. Look, there are people that are involved here, and we'll say their names here. You know, Byron Sneeringer, Chris Hawk Jones, Michelle Bellamonte, Peter Ohanen, I think is his name. But really, Alan Friedland is the brains and bread and butter behind everything that's going on here. And I think one of the first times I reached out to you, you know, I was in the Discord and I was in there under a fake username. Actually, I was in under a real username, and then I wound up being under a fake username. I think when I reached out to you, my name was Mandy Savvy, and, you know, and I reached out to you, and I sent you one article about Alan Friedland, and it made you say, "What the fuck?" You know, I kind of know what's going on here, but you know, who is this Alan Friedland character? And you know, once you realize, I think the interesting thing about Alan Friedland is he settled with the CFTC for trying to make a forex coin that you know, we're not saying he's guilty. It was a civil charge. I don't want any, you know, it was a civil charge. You can look this up. He settled with the CFTC, which is the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, for having it's something called CompCoin that did that. And what we've learned since then is a lot of the people that were involved in CompCoin, he couldn't pay them back, so he's moved on to this new nrgy slash starstake and everything like that, and brought a lot of them along with him in the real scheme of things. So if you can exaggerate, like, did you ever ask about this or anything like that? Like, I guess the important thing is, in a cult, and I'm just going to call it a cult because that's what it is. In a cult, you know, you're not allowed to ask questions that go against the narrative. You know, before you talked to me, before we met, before you met Mandy Savvy, before you met anyone like that, did anybody ever ask questions, or do they always just take everything that was said every Saturday as the truth? I guess that's my loaded question for you. Did anybody ever ask a question where they shot down? Because we know what's happening nowadays, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
No, I'm really everything was going along smooth. because everybody was recruiting people, getting instant payment for recruiting people, seeing their supposed value go up on the Polygon side, waiting on the end of the 40-week staking period at that time, and starstake to launch. And so everything was kind of on path. Nobody really seemed
And I think
uncomfortable at all.
time wise, we're in like the period when big crypto kind of started to fall. We're looking at like the May period of last year, 2022, when and we have a video on this when Alan Friedland came out and said we've got 250 stars, some of them with over 50 million subscribers on YouTube that want to join Starstake, and you're all going to be very, very rich. And no financial disclaimer. I know you've seen that video. That video has been wiped from the internet as far as nrgy and starstake is concerned, but I have preserved that on Results Not Typical, which that video will be linked below, so you can kind of see exactly what was said there by Alan in his Tesla. But this was Alan after he settled with the CFTC for millions of dollars, like 1.7 million dollars, promising people that there was going to be 250 stars, some with, I'm just taking his words exactly, some with 50, 60, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 million subscribers. And, everything was good. But I guess what happened was, as Bitcoin went down, and again, feel free to interrupt me at a time, as Bitcoin was going down, it was getting hard, and Ethereum was going down, it was getting harder and harder to recruit people into these scams. And what happened was you had, and we can trace this, we're not going to say any specific names, but you and I have sat down and traced wallets. There were people that bought in early into the game, selling thousands of tokens every week, and as new members joined, well, screw it. If new people are joining, we're still going to keep going up and to the right. It doesn't matter. But if people stop joining, what does that do? I mean, anybody can literally type in nrgy Ethereum price into Google. We're not going to show it right now because it's not worth it, but you type nrgy Ethereum price into Google. There was a period that, after Alan promised it was going to launch in May, and it didn't launch in May. That's May 2022, and we're sitting here in March right now. Now, we've got a period of time we're going to talk about between that, but when Alan announced those, crypto was falling on its own. And even though Peter O'Hannon, which is, you remember, you watch Family Guy, Greg?
Yeah, some.
You know what, another Peter, you know that meme when he goes back into the bushes? Like that yeah. Peter at the top of the crypto market. And I'm not making this up. I have video on my channel that says this, which if you watch Alan, Peter's in there. Peter just kind of went back into the bushes after he said, it doesn't matter. Nrgy is it's not going to go down with other cryptos. It's not relevant, but here's the problem. Everybody in the management, the people who got in first, and I think even people like Byron Sneeringer have said this on a lot of his meetings before, which he goes by Dwayne Noble, if you didn't know. That's his online name, but his real legal name is Byron Sneeringer. And I do recommend, Greg's not going to say this because he doesn't want to get in trouble, but I don't mind. I do recommend you pull a background check on Byron Sneeringer, and you'll see all the fun that Byron's had in the past. Alan's actually a lot cleaner than Byron is. But, the thing is, people like that have had to sell all along in order to maintain their lifestyle. The lifestyle that they've done, for Alan to have his Tesla payments, he's got to sell. So they've taken the liquidity out of this coin. And I think that's where we lie right now. As weird as it sounds, before we talk about the new thing, is what happened was the coin went from being worth $300 a coin to right now being worth $11 or $12 a coin in a coin that you can sell. So, like we said, and you could tell the story, they made let's just call it what it is, they made a bullshit platform that said the coin was worth a lot more. And that bullshit platform was pretty, but you could never actually do anything with it. And realistically, that bullshit platform wasn't even DeFi, because if you look at the original Ethereum nrgy, which we're just going to talk about the original Ethereum nrgy, which was the scam that started it all. Then you had nrgygo and everything like that. That was actually DeFi. There was a locked contract. There was everything like that. And nobody could really change the rules once that happened. But I think here's what happened in the summer of 2022. They said, Macaulay Culkin, oh fuck. And they said, we got to change something. So they said, well, we've already locked the Ethereum side of it. Let's screw around with the Polygon side. And, that's where you start seeing some other things. And during this entire time, they have yet to launch the thing that was the main utility. So really, when it comes down to it, the Ponzi scheme is there and the Ponzi scheme is failing, because when you can't get new money into a Ponzi scheme, guess what happens to that Ponzi scheme? So at that time, I just want to give I'll let Greg talk a little bit more in a minute, but at that time, I had already taken down Builder and I had, lullabied to sleep. And then it was late in the summer of 2022 that someone reached out to me and said, they're pulling, I'm going to use a word from Oz, who's my buddy from behind MLM. That's an Australian or New Zealand based thing that really exposes MLM scammers. The crazy, the music crypto bullshit that was called starstake had kind of come back to life. And it seemed like, you had one person who was running the community, which was Byron Sneeringer, running that community, or Dwayne Noble, as you might know him. But Alan Friedland, Byron Sneeringer, and Peter Ohanen decide to get a crazy bunch of fools to run it with them, including Chris Hawk, including Maria Martinelli, including Tariq EQ Amali, and everything like that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but last summer is when they really started building up a team to kind of go bang, bang, bang on starstake. And were you seeing that more in your meetings and everything like that?
Yeah, for sure. In fact, it wasn't, I think that video of Alan in the Tesla, which was the first video I really ever saw of him besides a 1 minute clip. Didn't he mention in that video that
He was going to build up a team? Yeah.
Maria and them just came on board or something like that. So that was in May.
I mean, he said a support team. Now we know right now, starstake is run as of March 2023, and we're gonna get there in a minute. It's run by Alan and one little developer in India. I think so. I mean, when we talk about a support team, I don't know if we're talking about a coding team or not, and I don't, with that developer, no. That developer has been named by name on the Discord server a few times before, his fake name, his stage name, because we don't use real names in the real world. I mean, Chris Hawk Jones is actually Chris Richard Jones. You can look him up. Oh, sorry, I spoiled your real name. I'm just, Shang Belamonte is Michelle Belamonte. For some reason, Tariq EQ Amali and I'm sorry, I'm going to blow this right now. Tariq EQ Amali and Maria Martinelli are a couple and are living together. And I was like, does Tariq even like women? I was really confused there. But, that's the scheme of it is, Alan built this team around that. And, he still, those promises were forgotten. I kind of want to go back in your brain a little bit. I'm sure you were excited when Alan said in May of 2022 that, they were going to give a demo on May 15th of 2022. And, starstake was going to launch right away. We got to talk about that. Was there excitement in the community and you thought you were going to make money and you thought the money was finally going to come in and everything like that?
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, when Alan said there was 250 stars with multi-million subscribers ready to go, and that this was going to launch in a week or whatever it was, sure. Everybody in the community thought, hey, here it comes. And all of a sudden the recruiting started to kind of pick up. Everybody started to buy in more. And when somebody would ask questions when it didn't launch that next week, we were told that, well, things take time. It's going to be a little bit longer. Just wait. Good things are coming. That's what the gist was of what the meetings became. After that time, maybe a month, 6 weeks after that Alan video is when things kind of started to go a little down from my side. Watching Zooms, people really starting to ask questions. Hey, where is this? Why are we not getting any updates? And that's where
is that correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to get my timeline correct because I was gone during that timeline. Is that pretty much when Chris Hawk Jones got introduced to all of it, along with the biggest star that starstake still has to date, Michelle Belmonte, or is that a little bit later? I'm trying to understand when Alan kind of went back into the bushes, because we know Peter's gone back into the bushes. Nobody's heard anything from Peter since May of 2022, to be honest with you. And we hear Peter's busy, he's a PE teacher where he lives and everything like that. But when did you start? I guess that's the loaded question because I don't know when it really happened, to be honest with you. Did you start to understand that there was actually another team other than Alan running starstake at some point in time? I guess that's my question.
Well, like I said, honestly, I'd never even heard of Alan until that video a 1 minute video on a Zoom, then that video in May. That's the first time I ever even heard of this Alan. Nobody said a word about him in the Discord or anything. I guess we know why. Um, uh, I was always told that Chris Hawk, of course, they wouldn't say his last name at that point, was the one that was running starstake. And I just knew that from the very beginning when I first got in, that he was the one that was in charge of that.
Okay. And when you got in, just time wise, that was about when Alan did his settlement. Just the logic, because at that same time, no,
Was
I'll just tell
March
you.
and February.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you at that same time, that's when I actually asked Alan on a Zoom meeting about his settlement. He's like, oh no. He's like, literally, I'll give you his response. He's like, no. The government is just behind times and is afraid of innovation. And that's why they don't want someone like me doing innovation. You know, that's literally Alan's response there. So when you came on, Alan had already kind of gone back into the bushes, and you really didn't know much of Peter other than his little appearances he'd make here and there. Because you really have leading the charge on the energy side. We'll get to the Starstake side in a minute, but you have Alan, you have Peter. Alan Friedland, Peter Hanen, and Byron Sneeringer. You've got that on the energy side. And on the Starstake side, you had Chris Hawk Jones, and then you had other people that were kind of introduced in the Tampa, Florida area, which is where they decided to kind of start their events. And over the summer, and correct me if I'm wrong, they kept bringing out like brands that they said they were partners with. But the real question, like they were pushing a big thing over the summer, which doesn't seem to be pushed as much anymore, interestingly. But over the summer, they were saying, hey, Starstake is partnered with the NFL Alumni Association. And they would show these awards that they would fly Shang, hashtag Michelle Belmonte, down to, which was at that time, had you met Shang yet? They had, I guess I want to go back, let me finish this, then we'll go back to Shang. Because I think Shang's an important brick. They would fly Shang down to Florida, and she'd be there with a plaque that they'd make, and it was really, they were making a donation to the local NFL Alumni Association. They had a disgraced NFL retiree that had a radio show that got canceled, that was the judge of some of their local talent competitions that happened in the summer and the fall. But what I noticed is, this is when I kind of got in, is that you had Chris Hawk Jones really hawking the fact of, we talked about Discord, but at this time something else came up, which was called StarHub, which was really just a rebranded Discord that they had significantly more control over than Discord. They could allow people in. I think one of the most important things about StarHub, and I don't think we've ever had discussed this before, I think here's what's really cool. I mean, I say really cool, I say this sarcastically. The cool thing about StarHub is you could see the whole pyramid scheme of who invited who, and who invited who, and who invited who. StarHub or Mighty Networks respected the MLM hierarchy of the pyramid scheme, and I think in StarHub, what you saw mainly being pushed was, meetings and understandings and introductions to Shang Belmonte or Michelle Belmonte. And, it seemed like for a long period of time, and it still seems like to today, that's the biggest star they have. When were you introduced to Shang via Chris? Was Shang ever introduced in the energy community, or she was just like an enigma? Were they running two separate things at the same time?
Just pretty much an enigma, best I could tell. And then come to find out they're married. Of course, I didn't know that. But every now and then, Chris would pop onto Discord before Mighty Network and
Energy
give
Discord. Energy Discord.
energy Discord, yeah, and give just a little update on Starstake. Hey, things are going great. We're rolling out the final thing here coming up real quick, uh, and all of a sudden he'd disappear again. And then the Mighty Network thing came up with StarHub, and
And then they
now
just decided to separate everything entirely
yeah,
because they
yeah.
could control the Mighty Networks. They could control the narrative a lot quicker, a lot easier, and that's the nature of a cult. If you got kicked out of Mighty Networks, it was a lot easier to keep you from joining again because you had to be recruited by an active member to join Mighty Networks. Discord, you could just join with a link. I am still in both as fake accounts, and not just one fake account. I have about 5 fake accounts, so good luck kicking me out. I'm not saying to you, but I'm saying good luck to them kicking me out. But that's the reality is, that in a lot of these networks, dissent was a thing. When I joined Mighty Networks, I literally asked, and you've seen this before, but I'll mention this. I asked Chris Hawk Jones, I'm like, dude, what you're selling is a security. You're saying that you are going to allow individual investors to invest in artists and then get money back. That is illegal unless you quantify those individual investors as qualified investors because you are selling an unregulated security. And he goes, no, 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 no. Come on, come on. It's crypto. And since it's crypto, it's not a security. So we don't have to, no, no, because you know who told him that? Alan Friedland told him none of this matters. That's the reality. And I wasn't hiding. When I was in their original Mighty Networks, I was on there as No Pants Profits. I took them down for Builder, which, you know, took a crap and everything like that. You know, that's the reality. But I think what started happening, it didn't happen in the Mighty Networks because they had a lot more control of who they went there. But, you know, we're talking about fall of 2022, is there started to be a lot more discourse in the Discord for energy. So I'll let you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, especially when it came down to the 40-week unstaking period. That's
As
where
well
things,
as because I think the 40-week unstaking period and the launch of starstake were around the same time, which was
yeah, they were supposed to be coordinated. In fact, I'm sure they were trying to get that done right before the 40-week so that people wouldn't bail out.
right.
That's
And so
that's
I mean that was the first. So the last promise, and you know, because literally you were on these Saturday calls because you had I think you had, I'm not wanting to blow your own load right here, but you had about 10 grand invested. Am I correct in there?
or
Eight to
around
10 grand.
probably, yeah, 8,000,
Eight to $10,000 invested to give a reality. So you were invested, and you know they were doing this when you wouldn't be busy on a Saturday morning. Did you make your investment all at once, or did you make it over time? Just out of
No, I made it over time,
oh,
about
okay. So
three or
three
four
or
different times.
okay, over a couple months time or a couple weeks time or things like that. You,
Yes, probably 6 weeks.
you know, so they had originally said, again, it was May of 2022. Let's not lie. Well, we're gonna rewind a little bit. Starstake, there are videos that are still online to this day with Alan Friedland saying that it was going to launch in December of 2021. There are still, and I know Greg's seen those, is, you know, that Starstake is going to launch in December of 2021. And I think that's before he got his band of merry misfits on. Because in the end of the day, and I think we've discussed this before, is that, you know, who's really liable here? You know, I think a lot of these people are just employees. I think people like Maria Martinelli, Tariq, Kip Cap Jones, you know, the guy in India are just employees doing what they're told, and they don't really understand the illegality of what's going on here. Because I think Alan's saying, "Hey, it's all good, it's all fine," but you know, we're looking at, you know, it's supposed to launch in December of 2021. Then it was promised beyond all belief that it was going to launch in May of 2022. Then it was promised beyond all belief that Black Friday of 2022, Thanksgiving, for those of you who don't know, the Thanksgiving weekend, it was going to be launched so that those people that got their 40 weeks could go out and buy presents and everything like that. And, you know, as of that point, and you are welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking about November, you know, early November of 2022, there was just energy. There was just energy coin you can buy. And they said, oh, wait, we can scam some people because we have this thing that we tested. Because I want to give everyone the timeline. You know, we have this thing that we tested that was called Dildo Dudes. That was literally making fun of our investors, and it was an NFT, and that NFT was tied to, if you made money in starstake, you get that. So they said, shit, we only sold 50 of those. You know, we made a couple hundred of them, if not 1,000 of them. We only sold 50 of them. How the hell are we going to get this scam paid again? And they said, the guy who really did it, I think the lead of it, and this is where he starts getting culpability, because we talk about people being employees versus people knowing the scam, is we've got a guy named Tariq E.Q. Amali, which we've done some deeper things in and seen he's run a lot of questionable things in his past. I think that's the legal way I want to say it. And they created an NFT. And I want to know how that NFT was kind of pitched to you, because I know you held some of those NFTs at some point in time, and this was in like November or so. So I kind of want to know, because that's the next cash grab. They asked you to buy energy coin, and then the next cash grab is this NFT.
Yep, that's right. In fact, it was supposed to be a pre-launch deal for starstake. It said it's getting ready to launch. We need to let
But
everybody have the
was that pushed on the Energy Discord? Yes, wasn't it? It was
yeah,
pushed on the Energy
yeah,
Discord. But I've been told
yeah.
that Starstake and Energy are completely separate entities. Chris Hawk
Okay,
Jones has nothing to do. I'm
okay.
just saying,
So
Greg.
when at the same time, now whatever happened, I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but when this mighty network Star Hub popped up, prior to that, all along since I had been in there for several months, it was said that Chris Hawk, of course, they wouldn't say his last name, was
Chris
a
Richard
large,
Jones. Okay, sorry.
okay, was a large holder of energy. Said all of the guys that were these leaders, which the people you mentioned, Byron, Peter, Chris, and Alan, were large holders of energy, and therefore they had a stake in making sure all of this was successful. When Mighty Network popped up and StarHub became, all of a sudden somebody made a comment about Chris having a stake in it. Chris popped up on Discord, and I'm sure you can look back through it and find it. And he had said that was wrong. He had no stake in energy whatsoever. And I brought this up to him. Of course, he didn't reply to me. I brought it up to Byron and said, "Hey, what's the deal? He's a liar. Clearly, he's lying because all along he has said that he had a big stake in it. Now, suddenly, he doesn't." And the explanation was, well, they were told that it had to be two separate entities. And that's when things really separated right there.
Right,
From
because
my
they would say that and I believe this is what you're saying, is they would say that Starstake was a legitimate, I'm using the bunny ears because the bunny ears are funny as fuck, was a legitimate company doing everything right. And we'll get to that when we talk about doing everything right. And then they would say that Energy, which nobody has control of, and after 40 weeks, everyone should have been able to take all their money out and double their money after 40 weeks, correct? You know,
yeah, we'll
Energy,
talk about that. I want to
yeah,
talk
we'll get
about
that. But no. But Energy is a DeFi project, and the two have nothing to do with each other. And that Energy is just providing liquidity for StarStake. Look, you and I, Greg, both know that what we're saying right now, and I'd like to wave hi to juror number 1, juror number 2, juror number 3. You know this is going to be played in the courtroom one day. And you know, neither of us are saying anything that we know is wrong. We're saying the truth.
No,
We're telling
I'm
the
saying
truth
what
as it
my
is.
truth
I mean, I'm
truth is
not
to me. That's what it
I'm not
is.
a believer. I'm not a believer in the Bible. I always do work while I'm drinking. Greg's got his big wave. I've got my Moscow Mule. But the reality comes to, this is gonna play in a civil and likely a criminal courtroom in one day, this timeline. And I think we're giving good color to the timeline because there is no difference between Energy and Starstake. They're both illegal entities. The only way that Starstake is protected is there was a trademark filed that was filed in like August of 2022. You know, No Pants Profits, which you're watching this on right now, had a trademark long before August of 2022 in that scheme. So they finally decided they wanted to have a trademark. But, you know, the legality is none of this is DeFi. This is all a company. This all has someone running it. And the man who's running it is Alan Friedland. And trust me, we'll get to that. But they had an NFT. I think that's the important thing that you were getting to. They had an NFT that they wanted to sell, and that NFT, all of the NFTs together, will be worth about $700,000. And of course, come on, you know this, Greg, by this time, they wanted to sell the NFT as a pyramid scheme. So if you bought the NFT and you refer that NFT to your friends, you know, and here's what I found out. If you didn't refer the NFT, that same referral money would go to the management of Starstake and Energy. Who would have thunk that would happen? So, you know, they actually sold 7,000 NFTs to people, promising that if you had 25 NFTs or more, you would get a percentage of everything that happened in Starstake. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's right.
And they sold them for $100 a piece, and they had another spin-off shitcoin. Because we've talked about Energy, we've talked about nrgygo, we've talked about Builder. They made something called Minter. which I don't know how much you know about Minter, but from what I understand, they promised energy holders, even if they didn't buy that NFT, that they were going to get some Minter as well, correct? Like you were going to get magic Minter drops, and they've promised Minter drops over time.
I think it was if you bought nrgygo, which I did, then you got mentor drops.
So nrgygo, so each one of these scam coins was on a different network, which was kind of interesting. You had on Ethereum, you had Energy, which had high gas fees and everything, because when it all started, Ethereum was still, because this was, long before the summer of 2022, Ethereum was still a proof of work coin. So it was hard to get in and out of Ethereum at that time, and so then they said, oh shit, we didn't use your coin, so let's put something on Binance Chain, or BNB, which was nrgygo, which was like a 1/10 or 1/100th of the price of energy, but it was the same shit. And if you owned that number, a certain number of those coins, you would get Minter. So what they did with this 700,000 was essentially an ICO, or an initial coin offering, or like an IPO for a public company. They sold you $100 worth of Minter coins for a picture of an astronaut. And I think you probably know a lot of people who bought a lot of pictures of astronauts for, and the real question is, okay, why did they do that? Well, maybe they did that so Chris Jones could still have a stake in the company. Because, if he had Minter coins is a new derivation of energy, which, again, me and Greg still don't believe he sold his energy. Am I correct in that logic? I mean, we think he sold his energy along the way. No, he was one of the ones selling it along the way. That sold it along the way. But we still don't think he fully devaluated from energy because, again, we're not going to mention specific names, but we know a lot of these people that are involved in this scheme were scammed by Alan in the past with CompCoin and are pretty much, I'm just going to say this right now, and I'm going to say it, and Greg's not going to say it, and I'll take the lawsuit. They're indentured slaves to Alan because Alan's never going to pay them back.
I'll say it too. I'll say it too. I agree, because I think that is the basis of why some of the so-called leaders are pushing so hard for this, because they're trying to recover anything that they've lost in that previous CompCoin issue. And that is a conflict of interest, really.
Yeah. So let's go back to the NFTs. They sold NFTs, and they sold those NFTs, not just sell the NFTs so you buy 25, you get a percentage of, everything that happens on starstake, but they were going to have a game. And it was really like an erotic sex novel written by Tariq E. Kiwamali. And, they would literally use copyright infringement in the game, would have clips of Back to the Future, would have clips of Ready Player One, would say Ready Player Win. And you know what that game was? That game was to position people, buy this shit, these NFTs, and you would be able to, by Christmas time, you would be able to have money to buy your Christmas gifts because you're going to make millions of Minter tokens by Christmas time. And even though starstake's not going to be launched by then, by Christmas time, guess what? You're going to have millions of dollars to, millions of Minter coins, and they wanted people to pair up in teams, and they had legendary NFTs, and it was a whole bunch of bullshit. But really what it was, we found out in retrospect. Me and Greg found out in retrospect. That's about the time me and you connected, was when those NFTs were on sale. So we're trying to keep people in line and track. Right after you bought the NFTs, I think when you and I connected for the first time. And I think what's interesting is, if we go back in time, we found Dildo Dudes after that fact, and we realized that Dildo Dudes was the same scam, and they just never got enough people to buy in on that scam, so they made the Mission Series 1 NFTs, which were backed by that. And really what that is for the SEC, or the Security Exchange Commission, that's an initial public offering. It's a security. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember the entire details, they were promising a 50% return over a locked period of time on the coins that were part of that NFT. I believe that's correct. If you held that NFT, and if you sold the NFT, the coins would go with it, the royalties would go with it, everything like that would go with it. That's
no guarantees though. Now, Richard, there was no guarantee of 50%.
No, there was a guarantee of 50%. There was no guarantee of the value. No, they gave you 50% more coins. The value of the coins, I think that's important. Yes. The value of the coins was never guaranteed, but they did guarantee 50% more coins. I think that's the important thing. Now, again, dilution is a bitch in this world nowadays. And, we came and gone. We're talking the whole month of December. They talked about this in the month of November, which, starstake was supposed to launch. If you remember, this Mission Series 1 NFT game was designed as, and correct me if I'm wrong, was so you can explore starstake and learn how starstake would work yourselves. And if you owned one of those NFTs, it would give you a magic ticket so that you could be a creator. And here was what was weird to me. As far as I was concerned, this was the first time that they ever asked the members of their pyramid or their investors to become creators. Before that, it had always been promised. I think this is an interesting pivot. It had always been promised that there were creators that were coming, that Alan had negotiated, that Chris had negotiated, that everyone had negotiated. But this time was the first time where they're like, you need at least one Mission Series 1 NFT for $100 to join and become a creator. And a lot of people went, what the fuck? Why would I want to become a creator? I'm here as an investor. I'm not here to work. And trust me, this is going to become relevant in about 10 minutes time with where we're going. And Greg knows where we're headed here. But, I want to give the whole timeline. I think that's fair, don't you, Greg? Like, to give the whole timeline is that was the time when they were like telling their investors that they were going to have to be actively involved. And that was like a big red flag. And I had already gotten Greg kind of over to my side, but he wasn't fully trusting me. But when that happened, we got a lot of other people out. Now, we're not going to tell people's names. We're not going to say how many of them there are. But there's at least 10 or 15 people that we've got on our side now that are, no longer in the scheme, that understand what's going on. And I think it's very evidenced amongst how many people are trying to sell tokens now. But again, we're not at that point yet. So 2022 comes to a close. Was there a Mission Series 1 NFT game as promised, Greg?
No, still waiting on that.
2022 comes to a close. Did you get your money back to buy Christmas gifts for everyone in your family?
No, sure didn't.
So
we were still in the 40 week. We were in that.
Let's go. We'll go there. Oh no, we'll go there in a second.
Never long 40. I never knew a
right.
week
So did starstake launch in 2022?
No.
Early December of 2022, though, something happened. Everyone should have been able to cash out their coins for double the value early to mid-December 2022. And I know that's what you want to talk about, which was the 40 weeks. Because when you joined, you were told after week 40, you would be able to sell the coins. And this is where we are kind of in early to mid to late December going into January. Everybody going, wait. You said I would get all my money back on week 40. And I would not just get my money back, I'd get between 1.5 and 2 times my money back on week 40.
It was more than that, because at that time, the Ethereum side of the coin value was maybe, say, $50.
Right, it was $30 to $50, yep.
For $500 on Polygon side.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
It was. And that's what people were looking at, is that, hey, we're promised that after 40 weeks that if we needed to pull out some of this, unstake some of this on Polygon, we can sell it for the Polygon price. And then 40 weeks was there. And like I said earlier, they were trying to get starstake to come out before that 40 weeks. No doubt.
Because it would give people a reason to stay.
Exactly. And at this point,
and that 40 weeks, correct me if I was wrong, that 40 weeks was on the Polygon side, not on the Ethereum side. So yeah, it was something that was we're no longer talking DeFi, because some one man, I know this is your sticking point, some one man or team of men was able to modify it. Now, I will tell you, at this time, at the end of December 2022, I happened to be on a cruise. And I was still communicating with you at that time. And that's when it came down to, they said, oh shit, we've got a problem. We need to come up with a solution of letting people get out that wanted to get out, because we promised them they would be able to get out in 40 weeks. And, you really had one person controlling this. And this is where our buddy Alan comes back into play. Now, Alan never went on video again after May of 2022 until I actually saw him on video like a week or two ago for like a minute in like a wrap up of some event they did in Tampa, and he had a goatee that made him look like he should be on some registry in his county, but I'm not going to say it out loud. I'm just saying some registry in his county that you probably wouldn't want to live by. Just saying. But, that's when we got to hear at that time, and I was on a cruise ship, and let's be honest, when I'm on a cruise ship, I am many Moscow mules deep. But, we were talking to Alan, and Alan was conversing, and, he said, hey, look, we need to find a solution, and here's the problem. There was no liquidity to sell. If anyone sold, the entire price of the coin would go to zero at that time. Literally, even if someone sold out like $50,000 or $60,000 worth, the price would just go. So they had, I'm doing bunny ears again, because I think bunny ears are important. They had a community vote. Okay. And
Yeah,
they did it to a Proton Mail email account. Again, hi, jurors. How are you doing? My name's Richard. This is Greg. I'm in Florida. Greg's in Kansas. Hi, jurors. They didn't want any trace of it, so they did it to a Proton Mail email account. And they said that people turned in a whole bunch of recommendations. Now, from 14, you don't know this, from 14 different email addresses, I sent in recommendations. Every single one of those emails was unopened, deleted. How do I know? Because I put tracers on them.
I
put tracers on them. They have things like DAOs. If you've heard of a DAO in crypto before, where people can vote, and you should be able to vote based on the number of shares you have in a real security, in a real stock. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm an Apple shareholder. I have literally sitting outside that door a letter saying I have so many shares to vote whether Tim Cook should still be the CEO of Apple next year.
Yeah, I've got the same thing.
You got the same thing. That's the reality. So about 3 days after they asked the community, they came back and they said, fuck you. We don't care what you say. The community has voted. And we are going to put a solution into place. I'm going to use their words, in days, not weeks, for you to sell your coin.
Now let me correct one thing there.
Yes.
When Alan was talking on that video, phone or whatever, he wasn't on the video.
Yeah, Zoom. He wasn't on video.
He did say what he thought the solution was going to be. He laid it out right there and said, but we're going to go ahead and take a community vote. Then 3 days later, he just said the exact same thing that he had already said, that everybody.
No, the community doesn't matter.
You know that's true.
Yeah, but I was drinking too much at that time to really know what was going on.
That's exactly what happened.
But I think what's interesting is all those videos, and again, I have them, should anybody need them. NoPantsProfits@gmail.com, Richard@NoPantsProfits.com, just letting you know. Should anybody need them, I have the videos of all these calls, but Byron Sneeringer, e.g. Enfurio brings the light. Trust me, we're getting to that. Oh, that's good. That's recent. But deleted all these calls from his YouTube channel. Deleted a history of any of these calls ever existing. And remember, Greg, you're smart enough to know, when you delete something, what are you trying to do?
Yeah, you're obviously trying to hide something.
Right. You're trying.
But it's never gone from the internet, guys. It's never gone.
I know. I had a woman who had a topless photo of her taken 2 days ago, and I found it in like 3 minutes of searching. She's like, I thought it went away from the internet. I'm like, no, nothing's ever gone from the internet. So yes,
Never.
even though, and we'll say this, even though my second channel, which this is not going on, which if you haven't checked out Results Not Typical, that's where a lot of the stuff goes from this, but I want to put this on the main channel because I think this is very relevant. I think it'll get a larger reach on the main channel. But, Byron Sneeringer tried to make copyright claims against me for reposting videos that he destroyed evidence on. Don't worry, whether they're on YouTube or not, I have multiple hard drives in multiple locations. Even Greg knows how to get a copy of them. Should he need them, that's the logic. So good luck, guys. But I guess they went to voting, and when they went to their voting, they went to the end, they said they were going to build a way for people to get out of the coin. And I think that's kind of interesting. And that was literally late December of 2022. Now, at that time, they didn't tell us, I mean, I'm not really an investor. They didn't tell the investors that by building this way to get out of the coin, it would delay starstake by a few more months. But that's the reality of what happened, because they have one developer over in India who's doing it, and that developer, and it's been openly admitted, I'm not conjecturing here, that developer got too tied up in the dynamic liquidity pool, which we'll call it a share buyback or an OTC exchange in a minute, got way too tied up in those things to actually advance starstake anymore. So here's the question, Greg. Was it days, not weeks later, that you were able to sell your coins?
Well, I mean, weeks are made up of days.
Yes, but what
So
else is
it,
made up of weeks?
yeah, months. It
Yes,
was, what was it? Maybe 10
two
days ago.
months. 2 months,
Yeah.
yeah. 2.5 months. So about 10, 12 days ago, people were finally able to list their coins. And you know who the first person to list their coins was? Greg, you're looking at him right here. This is the first person to list his coins. And I listed millions of coins for sale. You remember that? For like
Yeah.
$1. And you know why I did that? Because the entire thing was a bullshit Excel sheet. The entire sales process was a bullshit Excel sheet. Now, at the same time they were doing this, I need to put something in tandem, and then we'll talk about how the sale process actually worked, because I know you were able to sell in your first week at a significant loss, but you were able to sell. At the same time they were doing this, there was something going on in parallel. Because remember, Chris Hawk Jones, or Chris Richard Jones, or Chris Hawk, however he wants to go, I'm giving all his pseudonyms, so the jury knows, was saying that starstake was going to launch before Valentine's Day. Remember that?
Yeah.
Valentine's Day 2023. After saying it was going to launch December 20, he didn't say December 2021. Alan said December 2021. Alan then said it was going to launch in May of 2022. Said it was going to launch all over the summer. Then they went again in November. They went in December, and he said no later than Valentine's Day. I'm sure you remember that.
Yeah.
We're at March 5th. Yeah. Has starstake launched yet?
No, I think now they say April.
Well, we'll get there, but you'll notice that if you do go, and I'm telling everybody, please do, go to starstake.com, scroll to the bottom, and you'll see that the copyright date is still Alan Friedland's original 2021 launch date. But I was not involved other than making a fuckery of things, because I love to make a fuckery of things. I put in a whole bunch of fake orders, and they were bitching and moaning on their Discord that someone put in a whole bunch of fake orders. But should I have been able to put in a whole bunch of fake orders if any of this was legitimate?
No, of course not. You should have had to sign the wallet signature and everything.
And I will tell you, a lot of Greg's actual crypto knowledge, I'm going to be brutally honest with you right now, came from me talking to him and explaining signing and doing different stuff like that. And he did research on his own as well. But what we noticed is when I was able to list a whole bunch of coins and never even check my wallet. You know why? Because I've never owned any energy on Polygon. I have a couple energy on Ethereum just for giggles that people have sent me over the times, but I've never owned any energy on Polygon. I'm not smart enough to figure that one out, or dumb enough. I don't know, smart enough, dumb enough. But Greg had the ability to actually sell a lot of his coins on the first week, and where we believe, we don't know this, but what they said, I'm going to lay out two different scenarios. What they said in their description, which you can still see, and I have just for the jurors in the future, all of this is on the Internet Archive. I archive all of this about once a week, so you can see changes and different things like that. Because this is going to court. I don't think there's any discussion this is going to court. Do you?
No doubt at all.
There's no doubt at all this will wind up in court at some point, unless they just all plead guilty. But you know,
narcissists will never do that.
Yes. So this is going to court. So, they made a liquidity pool, which I'm going to let Greg talk in a minute, but that liquidity pool could have really gone one of two ways because there was no liquidity. It could have gone as an OTC, which an OTC is when someone says, hey, I'm going to buy your coin for this amount, but it's not going to hit an exchange. So we're basically just selling shares across to each other, which is one way to do it. Here's the problem, though. Everyone wanted to sell energy.
So it doesn't lower the price.
So it doesn't lower. So it doesn't move the price. Let's say move the price, because it could lower or higher the price. It's done off chain. It's not through an exchange. Now, Greg, you know enough about crypto. Is that DeFi?
No, of course not.
That's CeFi. That's centralized financing. You know what that is? That's the same thing Merrill Lynch and Robinhood and Webull and everybody do. It is regulated by FINRA, which is a financial firm. I hate to be a dick and mention things like this, but, that's the reality. Or what actually has happened, because guess what? They couldn't find any buyers, could they, Greg? They could only find sellers.
Right.
They did what's called a share buyback, which is, again, something regulated by the SEC and FINRA. So they bought back shares. Now, where do we believe they got the money for the share buyback? Well, through the stupid pictures of astronauts that they took in about $550,000 on. And I think the first week, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the first week they had $30,000 available for buying back their shares. And you'll notice that the second week, we'll get to the first week, the second week they only have $20,000. Now, when they promised this whole thing, did they say it was going to decline week over week? Or did they say there'd be a certain amount? They said there'd be 30 every week until everybody that wanted to sell was able to sell.
I believe that's right.
Again, there's videos that say, there'd be 30 every week till everybody that wants to sell can sell. Guess what happened? Now we have less and less. So the first week, Greg was able to sell. I'm going to let Greg tell his story about selling. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I was able to list finally. They had a supposedly a fake timer. I'm going to call it a fake timer. They had a timer set up on there that
it's like one of those timers on one of those websites. It's like, oh, get your free iPad. 1 minute left, and then when it gets to 1 minute, it goes back up to 5.
Exactly. And so we listed it, and all along, well, we should make one thing clear here. Since that audio Zoom with Alan, he has not communicated to anyone directly. In fact, about that time, Byron said that he was going to pull back a little bit off of NRgy and
he did. You're right.
Trying to build value to it with another.
And I think we'll get there because I want to get there. We'll get there.
Okay, and we will. But my point is, at that point, there only became one person designated to interact with Alan, and that was somebody named Stingham with a
and that was on the Discord, correct? I just want to, for those people that are not in the Discord, they need to know.
Yes, he's the only one permitted by rabbit ears to talk to Alan. Now I don't know if it's talk or text or
and at some point later in that time, you were actually given Alan's phone number via someone, yes. And you tried to call that number, and it was dead, right?
Yeah, well, it just rang, and there was no voicemail.
Okay, but go on.
Whatever that means. But my point is, this was all coming through Alan's designated person. And so what we were told was at the end of the timer,
which was 10 days. It was 10 days, I think.
10 days, okay. The bottom 20 wallets would then be automatically paid based on this protocol they had been writing for over 2 months. They had tested it, made sure it worked. This is what we
instead of finishing starstake.
Yes. And so, of course, that became the investor's fault. See, that was our fault that starstake is delayed now because we needed to cash out. That's the way I felt.
Yeah.
But anyway, the timer expired and nothing happens. So was I surprised at this point? No, because I've been trying to reach Alan. I've been investigating Alan and finding out all of this stuff about him. Which I didn't
and along
know.
that time, you and I have been talking, and I will tell you, the person who originally got you in, the person who originally got you into the scheme, knew both of us. He had been able to talk to both of us. I mean, I will clearly say that my family members were harassed by the person who tried. I'm not going to mention the person's name because that's not the time for this, but the person who tried to get you into the scheme, my family members harassed, my life was threatened, I was doxxed, my family members' addresses were doxxed, I was called constantly, and eventually he called me from his real phone number and I picked up. And there was a time when I thought he was an innocent man, when I thought he was just being controlled by Alan, but we'll get there.
And I'm not so sure that I honestly think that I'm not so sure that he is not so deep into this that he can't see a way out. And I don't, I've interacted with this person many times, and he does seem to give honest, straightforward answers. Now,
but he won't give them in public. He'll only give them one-on-one.
That's true. It will only be one-on-one because they don't want any type of negative, anything that's perceived to be negative on the Discord there in public. But it doesn't seem like he's in contact with Alan anymore. And I don't know what happened there, if they got sideways and got separated or what. But he has always been straightforward and tried to answer questions the best he can. The problem is
he's a moron.
Answers. He doesn't know the answers. Alan is the only one that knows the answers. And my entire complaint of this whole thing is that it's pitched as a DeFi. It's clearly not DeFi. One person, jackass, is in charge of everyone's money and can make changes to this smart contract because it's not locked. That by definition is not DeFi by my small understanding
Oh no, that's a
of
scam. That's a scam.
cryptocurrency.
That's a scam.
Okay.
And
It's clear.
again, hello, juror number 1, juror number 2, juror number 3, juror number 4, juror number 5. It's a scam. This is not DeFi. You can call this DeFi and crypto all you want, but if someone is allowed to make changes along the way, it is not DeFi, it is not crypto. I mean, look, here's the thing. I want to grandstand myself for a minute. If anything I was saying over these videos for the past 6 to 8 months is wrong, where's my lawsuit? Where's my defamation lawsuit? You really have to ask that question. In the mail.
In the mail? Or they don't trust the mail. They don't trust the mail. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because that's run by the government. But, that's the reality, is that what me and Greg, for the first time on video, are really saying is that, and Greg got some of it. So after the scheme, which we've determined was just an Excel sheet, essentially, and kicking and screaming, and a week after it was supposed to close, no one got paid out. Alan finally said, "Oh, fuck it, we'll give 30 grand away." So they gave Greg, what was it, like less than a third of what you originally invested, correct? Far less than a third.
Yeah, well, by the time they took the 7.6% fees out or whatever, I got right at $1,000.
So you got $1,000 on an $8,000 investment, but also sold some of his pictures of astronauts too.
Yeah, and that's included in that 8,000
right.
that I got back. But before I could list those to sell, I asked questions. I started really getting, after talking to you and researching everything, I started asking questions.
FUD.
And I got kicked out. I've been part of this for almost a year. Put in $8,200, supported everybody, went to the meetings, tried
and
to
I think we can very clearly say, I don't want to say a name, but you got kicked out by the person who recruited you. Yes. You were kicked out of the scam by the person who got the frigging royalty for bringing you into the scam.
That's
Karma's
true.
a bitch, isn't it?
That's true. And there was a couple of different moderators that they have on there that they would say, fuck you, quit asking questions, you're just spreading FUD. And
you know what? That sounds like Scientology. That sounds like every other cult in the world. Because when you question a cult, and I recommend, look, anybody who's still in and watching this right now, we're here for you. If you shoot me an email and you prove to me that you're not one of the people that's in this, we have a whole support group for people who have left us. We're not going to put a link down below or anything like that because we don't need someone infiltrating it. But if you want to talk to us, you want to reach out to us, we literally, Greg will say, we have a whole group of people who used to be in here. It's not just me and Greg against the world. It's me and Greg that want to show our faces against the world, if that makes sense. And
I'll be happy to talk to anybody. I'm not saying anything that's not true or not anything that I haven't attempted to say to any of the other people involved.
Right. In the end of the day, all we can say, and again, this is a court of law thing and a free speech thing, all we can say is what we believe to be true based on the information we have. And neither of us believe we've said anything untrue on this call. And that protects us by the First Amendment. That protects us via a lot of different laws, a lot of different things. And so you got some money out. You got about $1,000 out on your $8,000, correct? So you lost
after I had to fight and poll.
Oh yeah, we're not even getting to fighting and all that.
Well, sure, I had to create a couple other alternate accounts to get back in the Discord because when they kicked me out, now
you still didn't have your money yet, did you?
No, and I couldn't. This was before I even listed it. And I actually reached out to the person that recruited me and said, "Hey, you kicked me out. How the hell am I going to get money in there?"
And the person who recruited you has literally sent you multiple pieces of hate text, hate mail, saying you shouldn't be talking to me because I'm Satan.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And basically, I had told him. I said, we should be able to deal with this as adults, as mature adults. You brought me in. I expect you to get me out with the same vigor and energy that you got me in with. And he eventually did say, here's the link to what you can post. He did do that. And so I was able to list my coins and yes, finally got out. But of course, it wasn't automated as promised. It took another 5-6 days
after the clock expired. And then I think important on the second week, the clock expired and then started counting up. and
Yeah,
people still
right.
don't have their money back from the second week of doing this.
Right.
And and
Yeah,
and
which they said, and again, they said afterwards that all of this was corrected
was
again.
tested. It was
Was
tested. It
tested
was
again,
tested.
corrected, everything was ready to
So
roll.
wait, I got a question for you, Greg. How much confidence do you have in starstake if this was tested?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is ridiculous. If the same programmer, and I've pointed this out many times, which I got chastised for too, if there is one or two programmers trying to do this and they can't get a simple timer right, how are they going to do this multi complex star stake program? There's
and
no
and
way.
I, and I think before we move on to someone adding value, I want to talk about one other thing, which was how starstake has changed since this guy wearing no pants pointed out that it was illegal. Because I think that's important, because they're saying that starstake has been delayed because they're trying to get it all up and going with the rules, right? You know, they're trying to get it all up and legal. Nothing they're doing is legal. I think that's the important thing to understand. Nothing they're doing is legal. It has not been specifically made illegal yet, but in the spirit, before a judge, before, you know, a grand jury, before anything like that, I think it's very clear. And I think the other thing and we've had this discussion before, you can't make up for illegalities in the past by making something legal in the present or the future. What they've done in
Right.
the past is incredibly illegal. ICOs, crypto things tied to an asset-backed security. And I think we missed something, Greg. I want to go back a little bit before we go to this. You know, they told people that kept their coins that they would get, literally, they said, if you don't sell, you're going to get an asset-backed security. And they didn't mince friggin' words. They said, you're going to get an NFT that is going to give you money back. What do you define that as in your limited financial knowledge? That's an asset-backed security.
Security, right. And that's I'm glad you brought that up, because they brought that up as a solution for the 40-week delay. So again, it was Alan trying to postpone things, trying to say, hey, if you guys just hold on, give it a little bit more time, we'll give you this asset-backed NFT that's going to now give you even more royalties from starstake. So this is what we'll give you
Well, no, it
for
wasn't
the
even more. It would give you the starstake royalties, then you could sell your coins. They're
that was the
essentially
only way
making that, and I think that's the important thing. You know, one of the things they're going to come back and say is, "Oh, we don't care about the price of energy because we're giving people these asset-backed coins, and then energy becomes worthless." They know the coin is worthless because the Ponzi's over. Since the Ponzi's over, they're saying, "Oh, fuck, we've got to do something." So let's make something that has no value other than what we say the value is. You know, that's the reality. So you know, in the second block of people being able to sell, the thing's 20%. You know, it's 15% lower than what you were able to sell at, and these people are still waiting to sell. This is as of March 5th, 2023. These people are still looking to sell, and you know who's still missing in action? This guy named Alan Friedland.
Will not show up. I've asked again. Okay, so I asked the person who brought me in. I said, this is unacceptable. I need an answer. I can't get one from anybody.
And he said he couldn't give you an answer. And this person who brought you in, we're not going to say his name, but he is he has an ear to Alan. He should.
Or at least
he should.
did.
He had an ear to Alan.
Right. And so eventually, I mean, after fighting with him over and over, and basically him threatening me and me semi-threatening him and going back and forth, he finally agreed to give me a phone number that he said was Alan's, which I doubted was the case anyway. Again, I have tried to call it. I pointed out to him that there was no answer. He said I could text it. Well, why do I want to text some random number that all they got to do is say they're Alan? I don't care.
Big booty hoes!
Yeah, I want to talk to this jerk off face to face. That's what I've been asking for over a year now.
I think both you and I have asked to debate. You know, we've asked Brian. Sorry, I said Brian. We've asked Byron to debate Alan, and he goes, "Oh, Alan's not a very good debater. Alan doesn't like being on camera." You know why? Alan shows up on camera. The CFTC says, "Hello," because part of the settlement was he couldn't be involved in any of this shit anymore. You know, that's the reality. So what I believe has happened, again, I believe, I'm clearing myself from any legal liability, and I think you'll shake your head to agree with this, is Alan has found a lot of fall guys in Byron, in Chris Hawk, in Peter, in Maria, in Tariq, in the whole community, in the moderators, so that he doesn't go down for this when it
It sure
eventually
seems that
becomes.
way.
It sure
It sure
seems that
seems
way.
that way. Yeah.
And you know, we're at week 2. Alan's, you know, we're at session 2 of this, and you know they sold the concept of an asset backed NFT if you don't sell. They still haven't given people a date or anything like that because we got to keep on extending the Ponzi. You know, as you were saying, we were told the last update, which wasn't even an update that anyone said anything. It was literally a footnote on a YouTube video, said that Starstake's looking to launch in April of 2023 now. And we've got a guy who is the leader of the Discord community named Byron Sneeringer. And, you know, he's pretty much given up on Alan. And I think this is the last chapter we need to talk about because you are very much involved in this chapter, whether you like it or not. You've had involvement in this chapter before because through your connection of your connection of your connection, you got involved. And this was literally a call that happened yesterday. We're shooting this on the 5th. This call happened on the 4th. This will come out on the 6th, just of March 2023. I like transparency of dates because I think that's important, especially in legal proceedings. You know, yesterday, the entire nrgy community was brought onto a call and told, we've pretty much given up on Alan Friedland. And I'm going to, not I'm, but the person who said this, I'm going to bring value to nrgy itself by actually selling financial advice on how you can use Cash App to make $5 million in 10 years. Tell me if I'm wrong in what I just said.
No,
That was the
that's what he
pitch.
said.
That was the pitch.
That's
You don't need a brokerage or anything. You need Cash App, and using Cash App, you're going to make $5 million in 10 years. And
you could with the power of compounding. That's what he said.
yes, and the power of one, but
The power of one.
yes, the power of one and the power of compounding. Now, what's interesting about Greg is Greg has actually been involved not only with Starstake, not only with nrgy, but also with the new pivot. Because remember, when the money dries up in a scam, Greg, I think you know this. What do you do when the money dries up in a scam?
You've got to create another one.
Yeah, Starstake's done. The Mission Series 1 NFTs are done. They literally haven't talked about that game in like 3 months. What is the use of the Mission Series 1 NFTs now? Fuck if anybody knows. And they before we get to what the person promised is, you know, they've completely reconfigured Starstake so that their existing investors get nothing because guess what? Now you get the NFT for free. So no one's paying for the NFT. And you know, not even that, and I've done videos on this before. They literally built an MLM creation machine which then makes their investors into employees, which they need to file 1099s for. It's the levels to this scam, even keeping it straight, are absolutely crazy. But I don't think Starstake's ever going to launch, but that's a story for another day. I hope people that are involved in Starstake are in handcuffs long before it launches. You know, Greg's already out. He's taken his write-off this year because it happened in 2023. So he's taking his $7,000 write-off. He's gonna buy himself a nice electric truck like I have, and you know, take that write-off against that. But no, the reality is that Starstake, nrgy, all of that is now dead. So a guy named Byron Sneeringer, who's the guy who runs the Discord, said, hey, I've got this thing called Enfurio, where I teach people how to make money investing in Cash App. And, you know, through the powers of compound interest and the power of one, I can make someone $5 million in a short period of time. I've seen no evidence of that, and I think Greg has been in there for at least 9 months, correct? 9 months to a year?
Well, I was. No, I don't think it was that long. I've been out now for, well, when he kicked me out of the other, he told me I could get out of that too, so I got out of everything. But no, I think I was in it for maybe 4 or 5 months, let's say,
So,
something
so
like that.
he's promising insane returns. Without any specifics, how have your returns been while you're in Enfurio? Because he says they never lost. They never lost, but won't
Right.
provide
Well,
audited financial statements.
right. Well, and like I said the other day to you, that he's right. His trades don't lose because he holds them until they do go positive. So I mean, it's not that he's lying. I mean, I've had trades before where I've sold for a loss because I needed to get out because it was going to
Right.
zero. You know, but he's right. Now I will say that he does have a pretty good feel for reading what the stock market charts are. Now, have I made some money with it with his advice? Yes. Have I lost some? Yes. Um,
Could you
I
have
don't know
made the
really.
sum just? Could you have made the same amount of money just being in index funds? Probably.
Probably so. Probably so. You know, last year overall, I think I made all of my investments across the board, maybe 4.5%. And that includes retirement funds that I was not directly managing versus including ones that I were. And it was probably pretty close to a wash, you know, but last year was a pretty good year really for
Yeah,
me.
no, last year was a good
The
year if
way
you bet
the
in the right
market was.
things. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
right. Right. So I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that Byron doesn't know completely what he's doing with financial stuff because I did make some positive things with what he was doing for
okay,
for
and
sure.
that's fine. That's fine. But I guess the logic comes to if you were still in as an investor, would a discount on his things make up for the fact that Starstake hasn't launched, that the 40 weeks are gone, that everything like that, has happened. That's where the
No,
logic
no.
comes to it.
And I've talked to him directly, specifically about that. That really, if Enfurio is so good, and that he thinks it really needs to be separate from energy. There is no anything that's associated with Allen, in my opinion, is tainted and is doomed to fail.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think you and I have very openly committed to each other that if any star ever were to sign up to join Starstake, we would make sure that those stars knew that Alan Friedland was behind it, no matter
Yeah,
how much they tried to hide
they
it.
deserve to know. They deserve to know. Why, you know, why would you want, okay, some favorite singer of mine? Why would I want them involved in something like this? With what's happened to me and my friends that I've seen that I've made now since I've been in here, I don't want them to be a part of anything like that.
It's like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. They're trying to hide Alan behind enough people that
Yeah,
nobody
they
ever
are.
Googles Alan's
Right.
name. And
Exactly.
there's this one asshole with no pants who has made sure that Alan is connected to any Google search you do for any of this. That's the reality, and I'll tell you, Alan lives in my state. I live in Florida. Alan literally lives in my state. Uh, if Alan believes he's doing nothing wrong, and I'll put this invite again, I don't mind. Instead of having you in the left box, I don't know what you're seeing, but I'm seeing you in the left box. Alan's more than welcome to the left box. If he wants to talk about how this is all legitimate and everything like that, and even if we want to do a foursome with you,
I'd be
me,
happy to
Byron
talk to him
Sneeringer,
publicly.
and Alan, but
I'd
but
be
I
happy to
think I
talk to him
think
publicly.
but I think any discussions with Alan need to happen in public. I think that's
Yes.
important
Well, and
because
that's what,
he's the
and
leader of a crypto project that has gone from worth $300 to worth 5% of that. The coin has been as high as $300, and now it's not even 5%. 3.5 to 4% of its all-time high. You can bitch and moan about Bitcoin all you want, sitting at $24,000, but that's still 30 or 25% of the all-time high. You've got energy, which we're not going to talk about Polygon because that's bullshit. That's not real. You've got energy on Ethereum sitting at 3 to 4% of what its all-time high was. Doesn't somebody have to answer for that? And, we've got people like Peter who have said on video that, and I think this is true. Honestly, I'm not against Peter here. I do think that Starstake and energy and all that kind of live in a vacuum. And the problem was the leaders were cashing out too much on their coins, that there were no new people coming in and the Ponzi dried up. I do believe that the price of Bitcoin was almost irrelevant to the price of energy, that the price of Ethereum was almost irrelevant to the price of energy. I don't disagree with that, and I don't think you do either, because the people who are trading real crypto are not the ones that are trading this coin. What happened was the leaders and those in the know in crypto drained all the liquidity from this project and brought it down to zero because they got in early. We've seen this time and time and time again. So what's being offered now is another pivot, is a star stake doesn't matter pivot. And literally, they're looking to launch a medical division. I think you've watched the update. They're looking to launch a medical division that's going to spin off from the energy coin. And I'm not going to say the name of the disease, to find a cure for a very rare disease. and then that the investors in the energy coin are going to own over 50% of the cure for a rare disease, which affects under 100 people, and that, when they do research for the cure for the rare disease, they might find cure for AIDS, they might find a cure for cancer or something like that, and everyone's going to own it. This is more bullshit Ponzi that's being sold to people. Correct?
It sure seems that way. It sure
It
seems
sure
that way.
seems
And,
that
and
way.
I don't know. And I don't know the details of whether he's got. I mean, maybe Byron has set up a true medical division with a chief medical officer and a research lab and all. I don't know. Maybe he has. I assume he has if he's trying to do
If
that.
he's saying it, yeah. And I assume
Unless,
the
yeah.
investment and the ownership there has been regulated by the SEC and has been registered with FINRA, and is a valid financial asset, don't you?
Well, I'm sure it is. Yeah, he wouldn't promote it like that if it wasn't,
But
because
it's
it's a
crypto. There's
fund.
no rules for crypto yet. That's what we
I
come
don't know
back to in
about
the end.
that.
No. In the end of the day, we come back to, and I want to end on this. I think we've told the whole timeline. I don't think there's any inaccuracies to our timeline. You've sugarcoated things more than I have because of experience you've had, and you're welcome to sugarcoat those things. But I think the reality comes to the day of reckoning for the regulation of crypto is here. With Sam Bankman-Fried and all those other ones like that, the day of reckoning is here. I myself, no pants, Richard, no pants, I have no financial losses I can go after these people for. You, on the other hand, do. In the end of the day, you might have a. I'm not saying just you, but I'm saying the people that have gotten out and have lost money. You may have a suit against them that you can bring to the federal government. And you can do that. It may be something you want to think of. It may just say, hey, look, I got a $7,000 loss. Well, welcome to life lessons. But eventually, I mean, we see people that are 25, 30, 40, $50,000 in, and that investment's gone down to worth $2,000 or so. I think these people are. I think the whole reason for us talking for the last hour and 26 minutes is because these people think they are above the law. And they're not. No matter what you do, in the end of the day, you can't go selling a $695 a year subscription service to give stock trades that people could do in 1 minute a day. That's not legal. That's literally not legal. And that's literally the promise for bringing value to this. I mean, I am an MBA in finance. I know these rules. I know what's going on. You've done enough reading to know these rules and know what's going on. I think we can very clearly say the next pivot in the energy starstake whatever thing is not with them becoming a certified financial advisor and totally acting within the law and sending out tax forms to everyone and everything like that. I think that's a pretty sure thing that that's not what's going on here. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Unless that's what he's going to do. Maybe he's going to hire a certified financial advisor and go from there. I don't know. I would
you
think
don't
he would
know,
have all that in mind.
but we let others decide. I think the most important thing, you've shown your face, you've said who you are. Do you have a Twitter or something like that that you can give out should someone want to get in contact with you directly? I give my contact information out. I don't want to blow your thing, but if you have some way, if not, I'm welcome to. If you want to make a burner email account after this is done, I will put it in the description, like just a
Oh,
burner. Like, no, I'm
I
saying,
don't care. My screen name, you got it on there, right? It's Doc Nyman, right? That's what my
yeah, but
Twitter is too.
oh, that's your
So
Twitter. Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
So DOCHNEYMAN. That's what your Twitter is too. I'm No Pants Profits on Twitter. NoPantsProfits at gmail.com. Richard at NoPantsProfits.com. And what we've done is we wanted to give you a timeline. We want those of you that are involved in this still to know what's going on. In our little group, we talk about people waking up because, in the end of the day, the way it's run, FUD, and you can't have objections and things like that. It is run like a cult. I've made videos saying it's run like a cult. I'm willing to say it's a cult, or has cult-like actions per se. I'm not saying anybody's drinking the Kool-Aid, but in a cult, you cannot have any dissent there, and I think that's the most important thing. And it's definitely not DeFi because someone is in charge, and there is no community vote or anything like that. And I think even Greg can say, yeah, it's not DeFi.
yeah. There's no, it's definitely not, and that's what and I had said 6 months ago before as soon as I discovered Alan, I had told Byron, I said, hey, you might want to get ahead of this thing. Alan needs to just confront it head on, come on and say, hey, I've done some things in the past that maybe I wish I wouldn't have done. We've all done that. And be honest and just show your face, say, hey, I'm running this, help me figure it out. But no, he continues to hide, won't let anyone contact him, and he's in charge making changes at will of supposedly a DeFi product. It's clearly not DeFi.
So I want to thank Greg for joining me today. My name is Richard from No Pants Profits. This is Greg, who's available at, I'll say, DOCNEYMAN on Twitter. If you do have any questions, feel free to send him a DM. And, you know, when you chat long enough with him and he knows you're not a crazy person, I mean, maybe a crazy person. We're all crazy people. You know, we do have a community. We don't want to let anybody into the community because we don't want people infiltrating the community that still believe in what's going on here, because that could be bad. But we do have a community of people that, you know, discuss every day what's going on and everything like that. And, you know, if you are someone questioning, we would love to have you as a member. This is Richard No Pants and Greg coming all the way from Kansas. Richard coming from Florida, Greg coming from Kansas, and I think Greg's with me. I don't know if he's wearing pants or not right now, but I do want to say
I've got shorts on.
Greg's got shorts on, and remember, Greg, when you wear no pants, there's only one thing you got left to lose, and I think you know what that is.
That's your shirt.
That's your shirt. Have a great one, everybody. Bye.
Bye.